Already now, coming up, our first look in this Copa America at Argentina and Bolivia. Both, of course, in the World Cup finals last year, but with very different footballing histories and very different pedigrees. Argentina, these days a mixture of vibrant young talent and their European exports. The latter category headed, of course, by Gabriel Batistuta, who's had such an exceptional season in Italy. And he plays up front with another Italian-based striker, Abel Balbo. They're the two top scorers over the past campaign in Serie A. 48 goals in that league between them, which says a great deal. The goalkeeper's interesting, Cristante. It's only his third cap. Chamot, one of the Italian-based players with Lazio, but youngsters like Zanetti, who goes to Italy with Inter for next season. The captain, also Ayala, is bound for Parma. And the head coach these days, Daniel Passarella, a great player, of course, in his day. He captained Argentina when they won the World Cup in 1978. And he's made quite an impression in his first season in charge of the national team as the coach. So Trevor Francis, you've got some memories of Daniel Passarella that perhaps you'd like to share with the Sky Sports viewers.
Yes, I played against him on a couple of occasions when I was over in Italy. He had a very good period at Fiorentina and then went on to Inter Milan. Very, very aggressive player, as we all know. At the time I was with Graham Souness at Sampdoria, and Graham was another fearsome tackler, and I would say that in Graham's career he's the only player Passarella has ever frightened Souness.
Bolivia, if you followed the World Cup closely a year ago, you'll recognise a good number of these names. Some of them actually Argentinian-born. Trucco, the goalkeeper, Cristaldo, an attacking left-sided player. They naturalised to play for Bolivia. So it's a squad that's been together a good time now, and they hope that that will be a factor against an Argentinian team that's got so much promise, so much potential, but of course the blend isn't helped when the European players are only available infrequently. They now know the context of the group with regard to the game that you've just seen, with the United States beating Chile. Eduardo Tiosniewski, the Uruguayan referee. Well, we're expecting a great deal from Argentina. Things are going well in the national side at other levels. They've won the under-23 tournament, the Pan American Games. That was in March. The under-20 squad for Argentina are the World Youth Champions. They were successful in Qatar in April. So how will the senior side fare in the Copa America? And of course they're going for a hat-trick. Winners in 1991, winners in 1993, and in both those competitions Gabriel Batistuta has played a leading part. 9 goals in 12 appearances in the Copa America for Batistuta. Trevor, you saw a bit of Bolivia in the World Cup last year. What do you make of them?
Well, my lasting memories of Bolivia is a side that passed it around reasonably well. They played against South Korea, a game that I saw in Washington. But what I remember from them was when they got near the penalty box, they really did struggle to score.
Of course, they had an unhappy time with a key player, Echeverri, who's playing today, who was injured, came on as a substitute in the first game. They didn't risk his fitness, and then, of course, no sooner on than off. Sent off in an incident with Lothar Matthäus, and a 2-game suspension, and that meant it was just a fleeting appearance for him in the World Cup finals. That was bitterly disappointing for Bolivia. They'll be hoping for plenty from him here in Uruguay. He's the Bolivian number 10. They're in the green shirts. Echeverri on the ball. A lot of interest in the stadium because of the presence of Diego Maradona, who one way or another has not been out of the headlines now for, well, I suppose the best part of 17 or 18 years since he made his international debut back in the late 70s. Echeverri. This is Melgar, another old hand for Bolivia in midfield, and Cristaldo, this eye-catching left-sided player. There was another like Echeverri to have a premature end to the World Cup when he got a red card administered by the Scottish referee Les Mottram against South Korea. Well, it was Balbo's ball that caused the threat, with Batistuta, as you would expect, trying to get on the end of it. Very important, you sense, for Bolivia to get into the game without anything untoward happening early on. They're not a nation noted for their footballing confidence. Perez with the pass that was picked off. This is Zanetti, who's the only player to have taken part in all the internationals over the past year under Passarella. It's quite a compliment to him. He is bound, as I said earlier, for Internazionale of Milan. But a real sense of expectation in Paysandú here, the second largest city in Uruguay, right on the border to Argentina. The ground has been filling up steadily through the afternoon. But this is Mercado with a positive break for Bolivia. Not in the end troubling Cristante. A very raw recruit really to international goalkeeping, but Passarella says he reminds him of the great Filiol, goalkeeper of the 70s. Zanetti. One thing, if you followed Argentine football a lot down the years, you'll notice no long-haired players. That's part of the Passarella regime, although Batistuta seems to get a little bit of a special exemption in that respect, and with the goals that he can provide, well, maybe there ought to be an extra rule for him. Gallardo, the boy wonder, 19-year-old midfield player, wearing the famous number 10 shirt. And the flag is up. Trevor.
Yes, with Passarella being such a strict disciplinarian, I can understand his views, but I think in one way, for us viewers, it's sad really that it prevents us from seeing the likes of Redondo and Caniggia, two outstanding players for Argentina. Redondo is a player that I've admired over the years. Won a championship medal this year at Real Madrid, of course, and Caniggia has been an outstanding striker. But to leave them out because their hair is slightly long seems rather unfortunate.
No, it may not be the total reason for that, but certainly Redondo hasn't been written out of the equation. This is Borelli, and it's a goal kick. Well, Balbo with Roma has had a fine time in Europe. Batistuta with Fiorentina. They really have set the scoring standards at a scorching pace in Serie A, and much will be expected of them to do the same here. Cristaldo. The stadium has had the facelift that has been applied to all the venues in this country, with a terrific footballing tradition, but not with the wealth to support the present to make it quite as glorious as the past. There's a terrific atmosphere here, imparted by the Argentine fans, who'll be a bit concerned at the moment. As the shadows lengthen in the late afternoon and the concerns grow for Argentina, who collectively made a little bit of a meal of defending there. That's Ayala.
I always felt that during the last World Cup, Argentina, though playing well, the big fear was that they couldn't defend, and in these early moments here, Mercado made a great run, got through. For whatever reason, he chose to shoot. He should have taken it on into the box. It was a very poor effort, but certainly when it comes to scoring goals, Argentina have never had a problem. I think the two players up front, Balbo and Batistuta, have had outstanding years in the Italian Serie A, and they pose the biggest threat tonight to Bolivia.
And to every other nation that Argentina confront in the competition as they go for this hat-trick. Depends on which record book you consult to find out exactly how many times Argentina have won this South American Championship. Officially it's 10 times, with 3 other successes in unofficial tournaments. But given the great competition now that there are, as they say, no easy international games, for them to win it 3 times in a row in the 90s would be an extraordinary feat. And that's what they're setting out to try and do here. Perez plays in Spain with Sporting Gijón. Cristaldo cuts it out. Melgar, in his mid-30s now, but still a crafty campaigner in the centre of midfield. And even older is Borja, the number 18, playing his 84th international. His exact date of birth remains something of a mystery, but he's at least 37. Well, that was a late challenge by Gallardo, and the referee deciding that even though Bolivia kept the ball, he wanted to impose the punishment.
And he's quite right, there's no attempt to play the ball there, a late challenge. Players can't expect to get away with that.
So a yellow card for the 19-year-old. Echeverri, all left foot. Simeone tracking back. One of the more experienced players in the Argentina side these days, Diego Simeone, although he's only 25. This is the man that they've really come to see, the Argentine fans. Gabriel Batistuta, Batty goal, as he's known throughout the world. It's Bolivia's throw, taken by Cristaldo. Melgar. As Trevor said at the start, there's plenty of passing ability in the Bolivian ranks. Whether there's enough belief to cause an upset here, I'm not so sure. But they've started brightly enough. Valdivieso is trying to turn it back towards Borja. Certainly the traditional lack of confidence has been lifted a little bit by the exploits of qualifying for the World Cup in '94. Haven't played too much since.
Well, they're certainly passing around with plenty of confidence, the Bolivian team. But it's just around the penalty box. You know, once they seem to approach 25 yards from goal, they seem to lack confidence.
Well, I think that's true for most of them, but Echeverri, who was working it through then, is a man who believes in his own ability. Cristaldo has galloped down the left-hand side again. But the only goal they got in the World Cup finals was, of course, a big deflection. Finally scored in their third and concluding group game against Spain. You just sense the extra punch when the ball gets up to towards the penalty area on the right, as you watch here, towards Balbo and Batistuta. Ayala's pass, lead on by Chamot. Relaxed by Peña, the number 5, putting his fellow defenders in trouble. And Argentina have a throw. Corner. Simeone going right in by the goalkeeper. Gallardo, very much the set-piece specialist, despite his tender years. He's really lofted it perhaps a little too deep that time. Perez. Tussling with another of the World Cup veterans, Rimba, who's ruled to have given away the free kick. Gallardo takes it, and it's crashed by Perez. Apologise if you're picking up one or two extraneous noises here, but there's a lot of atmosphere of the Latin American kind around the television positions, and so there should be, Trevor.
Yes, that was a quite intelligent free kick there. Everyone expecting the ball into the box. Simeone chose to square it back for Perez to come onto it, but unfortunately the shot didn't match the idea from Simeone.
The Bolivian experience, football-wise, is quite an interesting one. They have a charitable society, the Tawichi Academy, which does wonders for disadvantaged young people, including young footballers of potential, and a number of these players have come through that institution, and not just their footballing careers being helped, but their lives in general. It's been a great benefit to the Bolivian game. First real test for Daniel Passarella as the head coach of the national team. Fearsome defender in his day, a great goal-scoring defender as well. A very aggressive competitor, and he's got another of the World Cup '78 heroes, Gallego, as his assistant. But he knows the criticism will be far-reaching if Argentina don't make a good start here.
For one who wasn't particularly tall, Martin, a tremendous head of the ball. I think he could have been no more than 5'9", but very, very well built. Great leaper. I always remember once against Inter Milan, it was my duty to try and mark him from corners.
Not an enviable task. Cristaldo making it difficult for Argentina's defenders here. And he's won Bolivia a free kick. Almost 15 minutes played. Valdivieso to set it up with Echeverri for company. And what a shock it would be if Bolivia could score first here. Most of their best feats in the international football have come, I was going to say on home soil, but really in home air. The rarefied atmosphere of their own country, where they won the Copa America when it was staged in Bolivia for the only time that they were successful in 1963. And another Bolivian claim to fame is they're the only nation to have beaten Brazil in a World Cup qualifier. And they did that in the last sequence a couple of years ago now. Brazil and Bolivia qualifying from that particular section. Melgar in a tight corner, Borelli, who was a late choice, the number 21, and Gallardo were flying in there to close the veteran midfield man down, Melgar.
Great little bit of individual skill there from Gallardo. Tremendous responsibility for him, wearing that famous number 10 shirt, of course. In his opening 15 minutes, looks a very, very useful player.
You forgive him his tackle for which he got booked then. But he's having to do it today in front of the watching world and, of course, in front of the watching Maradona here. Perez. But no one wide enough on the right-hand side for Argentina, who are straining to get the right service for Balbo and Batistuta. Haven't quite found it as yet. Trying to do enough in this, the second game in Group C, to knock the United States of America off the top of the table at this early stage. The USA there having just hung on to a good first half performance in which they scored twice to beat Chile in the end 2-1. Ayala. He's a very calm, composed character. Zanetti. Simeone. It's Gallardo a bit wayward with the return pass. And Bolivia certainly beginning this game in a manner which will please their Spanish coach, Antonio Lopez, who's had quite a time, more than 2 years with the squad. He was the assistant to Ascagorta, and now says he will leave Bolivia to go back to Spain after this tournament. Ayala doing enough. The goalkeeper Cristante has played in the last 2 games, 2 warm-up matches, without conceding a goal, and gets his 3rd and the most testing match here in Paysandú. Throw taken by Chamot. Perez seeing plenty of the ball in the centre of midfield, but so far this is about as far as they've been getting. Simeone funneling back the Bolivians. He defended pretty well in the World Cup finals, certainly made it very difficult for Germany in the opening game in Chicago, until a chaotic moment when the goalkeeper Trucco came roaring out and was left stranded as Jürgen Klinsmann was able to steer the ball into an empty net for the only goal of the game. Borja.
Because our friend Trucco was eccentric as the keeper last night, Higuita, for Colombia. I know he's nicknamed Loco, which is crazy, isn't it?
That's it. So he's certainly from that stable. Ayala called across to cover. And if you'd have said to Bolivia, you can get through to 20 minutes at 0-0 before the game, they'd be very pleased with that. And they're very close to getting there. And it's been a bit more than that as well. It's not been a case of hanging on. They've applied themselves well, and we've seen very little of the attacking force of the mighty pairing of Batistuta and Balbo. We might see something now as Borelli looks to slip it through for Batistuta, who's claiming a free kick, not getting a free kick.
Yes, in the opening 20 minutes there's only been one real chance, and that was a little bit of individual play by Mercado. He wriggled his way past two defenders into the box and then decided to shoot early. But apart from that, we've seen relatively little of the two big boys up front for Argentina, Balbo and Batistuta. I think Passarella is slightly disappointed with the opening 20 minutes. They've come here as second favourites, I believe, to win the competition behind Brazil. But Brazil disappointed last night, and I know it's early days yet, but it's not a particularly encouraging start from Argentina.
Gallardo. Chamot. He's got a good angle for a cross. Comes for Simeone. Oh, well, that was woeful. There were plenty of bodies between him and the goal, but to shin it wide like that from a player of his experience was a pretty poor effort.
Yes, it was good play that from Argentina. Started by Gallardo, played Chamot on the overlap. Needed a good cross. It's a useful cross, but I thought the keeper should have done better. Dropped it, presented the opportunity for Simeone, and it's the first chance Argentina have had.
Gallardo. Balbo doing the work in the wide position that time. And one or two tackles not for the faint-hearted here. Simeone. Batistuta. Might be in trouble here for a spot of dissent. Well, that's about as long as the hair is allowed to get under Passarella. He also is a very firm believer in the right kind of diet. They have such great meat, of course, in Argentina, but he believes the home-based players eat too much of it, too much red meat.
Does he allow earrings?
Let's have a look. What he does do himself is smoke a lot, so whether he allows his players to indulge in that particular vice, he's in the Cesar Luis Menotti class for that. But it's a game with a fierce side to it already, and the referee, and we've seen one or two referees have a surprisingly easy ride, given the reputation of this tournament so far. But you do feel the Uruguayan official has got to be very vigilant in applying himself to his task. Argentina feeling a bit frustrated, almost a home game for them. And Bolivia wanting to do more here than just make up the numbers. Peña, who is a defender by nature, anchoring midfield really, and allowing himself the luxury of a forward run then. Cristaldo is certainly an outlet on the left-hand side. Melgar seeing some space and moving into it. Cristaldo! Well, it was well conceived by Bolivia.
Once again, it was great build-up play. Cristaldo made a good little run, ball was played nicely into him. But it's the finish again, that's another good opportunity. That's the second they've had, similar circumstances. They've really choked the shot when a clean strike could have brought a goal.
Zanetti. Gallardo. Borrelli, who plays oddly for an Argentine in Greece for Panathinaikos, and was called into this team at the 11th hour when Sergio Berti pulled out with injury. Here is Daniel Passarella. Familiar face, I'm sure, to many of you who study the international game. And a really tough competitor who's not too happy with what he's seeing from his team. With 20 minutes to go to half-time. But it's early days in the match and in the tournament, and they are proven winners. Gallardo. Simeone holding the right-hand side of midfield. Echeverri, but claiming that there was an obstruction, which was well spotted by the referee. Bolivia getting properly a free kick. Gallardo. Bolivia just committed forward. This is Balbo. Well, there's too much steam on that. Batistuta had gone to the far post. Abel Balbo, who was in the World Cup squad, of course, last year and in 1990 as well, although he took part in that opening game for Argentina. Remember when they were the defending world champions and they were beaten by Cameroon in Milan. It set back one or two international careers that day, and Balbo's was one of them.
Despite Passarella being a little bit concerned, the most reassuring thing for a manager is that if the side is not playing well, you know that if you've got two people up front who can score goals, they can always win a match for you. You know, we mentioned Balbo and Batistuta. They've got the ability to score a goal at any time during the game, so it's not particularly necessary for the side to play well, especially with those two around.
Borja, who is defying the passing of time, still playing at this level in his late 30s. Echeverri, lovely control. Well, you could see what he was trying for, the deep ball. It's not the best playing surface here. Brought out by Simeone, who battles on to the benefit of Gallardo. See, the first touch has to be made with great care. Match already played today on this pitch. And thank goodness some of the recent wet weather here in Uruguay has moved on. Otherwise, the second game of these double headers would be a little bit unfair on the participants.
Why is it the surfaces in South America are always so poor? Wherever I've been in the countries over there, it's always been a very poor surface. The biggest disappointment for me was the Maracanã Stadium. Tremendous stadium, but the surface was terrible.
Well, in that case, Trevor, it's just the number of games that's played on that particular pitch throughout the year.
We went to train on the Maracanã the day before the game, and the grass was so long, we thought, well, it's obviously going to cut it for the next day, but it was exactly the same. Never bothered.
Mercado, who's just posed one or two problems against the back line that has Ayala and Cáceres of Zaragoza. Arsenal fans will remember him from the Cup Winners' Cup final. They're the two central defenders. Experienced Chamot on the left-hand side. And given Passarella's own role as a player, I'm sure he's drilled the back line regularly, but they don't look totally in command from what we've seen so far, with almost half an hour gone. 0-0. Argentina's defence of the Copa America beginning here. Well, that was optimistic. Gallardo. Bolivia win it back rather easily. We've two more games for you tomorrow from the Copa America, starting just after 7. Uruguay against Paraguay. Paraguay who played so well to beat Mexico. And we follow that with Mexico against Venezuela. Suddenly that's important for the Mexicans. Comes straight afterwards. It really is back-to-back action. Hardly time for today the players, the American players and the Chileans, to get off the pitch before Argentina and Bolivia were champing at the bit to get on. Echeverri. Here's Zanetti. Chamot. While it stays at 0-0, I'm sure Bolivia will retain their belief and the confidence of their coach, who's been stressing the togetherness of this group of players. But if and when Argentina do get in front, well, whether they've got the strength of character then to come back. But we doubted Peru yesterday, Trevor, and they certainly bounced back spectacularly against Colombia.
Yes, with the most incredible goal. When a player scores from 30, 35 yards, you immediately think, well, it's got to be the keeper's fault. But looking at it 2 or 3 times, Nikita was completely deceived. The ball must have moved. Well, you said 10 yards. I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration. But certainly 6 or 7 yards it moved in the air, and he had no chance of saving it.
Yes, it was Roberto Palacios who certainly etched his name into this particular competition with the Peruvian equaliser. Coming from Group B, we're back to Group A tomorrow. 3 sections, 4 teams in each section. The top 2 guaranteed a place in the quarter-finals, to be joined by the 2 best third-place teams. Valdivieso, who likes to shoot from long range and can usually do it a bit better than that. So only 4 nations actually knocked out in the group stage. And you have to avoid finishing bottom. Certainly, I think Venezuela are likely candidates to be bottom of Group A. But the other 2 sections, it's going to be a real battle on for survival and progress. And of course it's a straightforward knockout competition from the last 8 onwards. Simeone, Ayala, and that's a mistake by him. Mercado, supported by Valdivieso. It's another skimming shot from him. Cristante once, twice. That was more like what Valdivieso usually does with his long-range shooting. It was certainly on target. And Ayala in particular relieved that the goalkeeper was there to rescue his individual error.
Yes, in the end the shot was a decent shot, but I think they should have made more of that opportunity. Ayala lost possession. 2 against 1 for Bolivia. They should have exploited it more. I thought the player in possession of the ball should have attacked the last man, then tried to release Valdivieso. He played the ball early to him. He still had a lot to do. It forced him to shoot from 25 yards.
Echeverri. And here's the ever-willing Cristaldo. It's a fine cross on the run. Echeverri, who'd played the ball in the first place, got in with a header as well.
That was good play. Good cross with his left foot there from Cristaldo. Echeverri with a header. Comfortable save from Cristante.
Good spell this for Bolivia. Valdivieso's in again. Oh, and off the inside of the post. Back to the goalkeeper. Lucky Argentina.
Well, you said he could shoot. That's his 3rd shot in the last 2 minutes, and that's the best of the lot. It was really unfortunate here. Hit it hard and low across the keeper. Good fortune for the keeper. It came back off the post. Here you see him striking it across the keeper. That's where it's got to go. For Argentina, it comes back into the keeper's hands. A little bit of good fortune for them.
More encouragement for the underdogs. Cristaldo wants a goal kick, and he gets one. Well, we've just had a couple of minutes here. Well, it's all been going Bolivia's way, with the exception of putting the ball in the net. Rimba. Well, early in his reign and partly forced upon him, but Daniel Passarello was very keen on the home-based players. Often the European stars not available to him, but so encouraging were some of the displays and the words of the head coach that you wondered whether or how many European players would get back in. He's actually rather gone back on his word slightly, and it looks at this stage that it's slightly disrupted the team pattern. They're out of sorts at the moment. Another corner unnecessarily conceded.
Doesn't matter, Martin, who you are, whether you're Daniel Passarello or Joe Bloggs. If you're a manager, you've got to get results.
That sounded like a remark from the heart from Trevor Francis. Echeverri to take the corner. Borelli cleverly letting it run, appreciating the space behind him. Ayala beaten by the pitch, really. Of the venues we've seen so far, the relayed pitch at Rivera for Group B has been the best. Although Brazil didn't really sparkle on it yesterday. Oh, well, Balbo going in and not making contact.
Well, you could say after 37 minutes, that's the first chance that Argentina have created. The only other chance they had there, I think Balbo should have done better. I think he didn't expect the Bolivian defender to miss that. I was going to say the only other chance they had was through a goalkeeping error from this man Truco, and that fell to Simeone, who should have at least hit the target. But apart from that, they've done very little in front of goal.
Balbo touches it on. Now whether Melgar and Borja, the veterans in Bolivia's midfield, can sustain the level of performance we've seen from that department of the Bolivian team as the match wears on, remains to be seen, but they've got a bit too much know-how at this stage for some fairly newish characters to international football like Gallardo, where he's crammed in a lot of experience over the past 8 or 9 months, including playing in the under-23 tournament, the Pan American Games, which Argentina did win. They were the host nation and expected to win, but still went on and did the job. Perez. There's Cáceres. Balbo. Been in Italy for a good while now. Played with Udinese before Roma. Free kick to Argentina. Just over 5 minutes to go to half-time. Gallardo to take it. Chamot making a little dart down the left. Looking, though, for Batistuta. News that Fiorentina are trying to get him to sign a contract until the year 2000. You can hardly blame them for that. This is Simeone. Well, he was losing his balance, but managed to fall in a way sufficiently to impress the referee to give Argentina a free kick.
Well, normally in this situation you expect Mr. Maradona to pick the ball up, don't you? Let's see if he's the new number 10.
Well, he's got a rival certainly in Hugo Perez, who's very much a set-piece specialist. He's the number 5. But Gallardo would certainly fancy his chances. Although you'd like a left-footer, wouldn't you? Really, at this angle.
Well, it's where Asprilla scored from last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, right-footed, yeah, that's right.
He bent it around the wall, and there's a big gap there if he wants to play it around the wall.
Well, they tried to tee it up for Batistuta in the end, and it came to nothing. And in a way, it's been rather typical of how things have gone for Argentina over the last 15 minutes or so. Borelli winning his first cap. I would have expected a busier first half for Truco in Bolivia's goal. Hasn't panned out that way so far. Zanetti took it on nicely, wants to keep running. Cristaldo had half an eye on him, back from Simeone. But the flag went up. Well, it's hard to blame the front two, Trevor, although Balbo did have that sniff of a chance, but they're not really getting the best of supply at the moment.
No, I would think half-time Passarella will have some strong words to say for his team, because they've got so many players back in defensive situations. They just need to push forward a little bit more. The front two are not getting the support. They're doing the best they can. They're making runs, Batistuta and Balbo, but the midfield boys just aren't getting forward to support them. I'm a little bit disappointed with Chamot. He's a very, very attacking left full-back, but he's not got forward at all in this first half.
Well, possibly he's just a little bit worried about lack of security alongside him. One or two early moments in the game where, as you pointed out, Mercado might have gone on and been a bit more positive. They've never really been in a position in this first half to totally express themselves, Argentina, whereas Bolivia have caught the eye in the role as underdogs, of course, especially in that spell when Valdivieso suddenly became centre stage and came closest of all with a shot that bounced off the inside of the post back to a mightily relieved goalkeeper, Cristante.
Just returning briefly to the World Cup last year in USA, you felt that Argentina was slightly unbalanced in their lineup, because they played with Balbo, of course, and Batistuta, but with Maradona and Carnegie in the side, they had a very, very attacking team. And I felt that if they were going to go to the competition, that would always be their downfall.
Oh, Truco, the crazy goalkeeper, almost did a crazy thing then. As, of course, Argentina played 4 games in the United States, 2 with Maradona, which they won, 2 without him, which they lost.
Yes, I watched them down in Boston when they played extremely well against Greece, winning 4-0. I think Batistuta scored 3 and Maradona scored an excellent goal. And there was great optimism then. A lot of their supporters felt they were going to go on and win the trophy. But I felt that the drug scandal involving Maradona really sapped the morale of the team.
It's Borja, and the problem for the goalkeeper was the rather erratic bounce on this pitch, despite a well-grasped penalty area. They did play a huge part in defeat in that marvellous game when they were knocked out, of course, Argentina against Romania. It was an absolute World Cup classic, which they lost 3-2.
Yes, and I think the reason why they went out in that game was because basically they were that top-heavy in terms of the forwards that they had in the team. It just put too much responsibility on the back four. And with the likes of Radichoyo and 1 or 2 others there in the Romanian side, they just weren't able to cope with them.
Simeone. Well, Argentina have a chance to manufacture something before half-time. Simeone forcing a corner. Gallardo again entrusted with it. Linesman just inspecting the placing of the ball. Well, they were all going in there at the near post, including Chamot.
It appeared to be Chamot and the captain Ayala both going for the same ball at the near post.
Well, as you said earlier, Trevor, Brazil also look back with happy memories, particularly happy memories on the first 45 minutes they played in the tournament, but they chiselled out a victory against Ecuador. And that's what Argentina will be aiming to do here in the second half.
Well, last night we spoke about the importance of 3 points for a win, but still I feel the mentality of players is not to lose the first game. I think more so with Bolivia, they don't want to lose here, but I think Argentina, being the second favourites, they're looking to put on a performance. They're just not good enough at the moment.
Oh, and Cristante fumbling it away from Peña. The half coming to an end with Bolivia on the attack, and really from the first 45 minutes here, the compliments to Bolivia for their attitude and at times their enterprise. They've hit the post, Valdivieso there, the unlucky player, and they've made Argentina look ordinary in midfield. No supply for Batistuta or Balbo to any great effect, but at half-time here it's 0-0.
Yes, you feel that the best is still to come as far as the cup holders are concerned. Argentina 0, Bolivia 0. First half analysis coming your way next. It's the cup holders, Argentina 0, Bolivia 0. A fairly disappointing first half, particularly for Argentina. Let's look at the match facts. Obviously no goals, 4 shots from Argentina, 7 from Bolivia, 5 on target from the Bolivians, none at all from the defending champions, 2 corners each. Argentina twice caught offside, 14 fouls in that first half, and just the 1 booking for Argentina. So, Craig Brown, disappointment then for Argentina. We really haven't been too enthused by what we've seen so far. What's gone wrong?
Well, I think I would rather give credit to Bolivia. I think Argentina are being outplayed tactically because the Bolivian system is superb. They've got a 3-4-2-1 system, and they've a young lad up front, Mercado, number 11. And he is working the back defenders of Argentina single-handed. If he gets early support, we saw him get early support from Valdivieso a couple of times, and when he got early support, he was a real threat. So if the more belief in the Bolivian side have more belief in themselves, I think they could get an upset here.
Yeah. Obviously the bookies were, well, everyone was strongly fancying Argentina to win this, but in fact the more you look at it, Bolivia could well provide, as you say, a surprise.
Yes, I think Echeverri is doing very, very well in midfield. His hair's too long to get a game for Argentina, you see. But he's dominating the midfield.
Yeah.
And they've got this lone striker who is a restless young 19-year-old. Yeah. And I think it's an excellent system, and I think Argentina are having problems coping with it.
Yeah, we'll have a look at the best of the Bolivian efforts in just a moment. But Alan Mullery, as far as Argentina are concerned, it was a pretty bleak first half. Simeone had a fairly good opportunity, but nothing came of it.
It went well down the left-hand side. It's not a bad cross. I mean, the goalkeeper makes a bit of a pig's ear of it. But then you see Simeone, you know, he's got a wonderful chance, and it's such a poor effort, you know, from an international footballer.
Yeah.
You'd see that on a Sunday morning out on the park, wouldn't you? You know, tomorrow morning when we're going home, you see people doing that on the local park. I mean, that's an international footballer missing from 8 yards. He's not made the goalkeeper work. He's made nobody work. And it's just a poor effort.
Craig was quick to praise Bolivia. They've done well in that first half. Do you go along with what he was saying about the way they're playing this and approaching it tactically?
I mean, he's the international manager, and he says that's his system to play, and that's the way they're playing very, very well. When you look at what we've had a look at the stats, you know, they're doing much better than Argentina. I mean, Daniel Passarello, as Trevor said, he'd be pulling his hair out on that performance in the first half, because the one team you expect to beat your first game, along it comes Bolivia, and we're going to beat them because they're supposed to have the quality. Batistuta up front, you know, Balbo up front. We haven't seen them. Done nothing at all.
Let's come back to you, Craig. Let's have a look now at Bolivia in that first half. There was one purple spell they had, about 3 good chances within the space of a couple of minutes. This is the first of them.
Yes, you see, there's the young lad I was talking about, Mercado. He's on his own, but he gets early support here, and that's a vital aspect of their system. He must get the support. And the shot was great from Valdivieso. An excellent save.
Good save too, yeah. Now this was the other chance just a few seconds later.
Yeah, Echeverri again, beautiful weighted pass with the outside of his left foot, wide. And we're looking for an early ball in here. And we get it. And there's a very finely timed header and a good save. A good save again. And I think that kind of positive attacking, and here's the best shot of all, off the inside of the post again, early support, and I suspect that Bolivia could cause an upset in the second half.
Yeah. Alan Mullery made a good point there, though, because, Alan, you said that's the sort of chance, again, that the whole tournament can hinge on. If that had gone in, Argentina would have been up against it. They've survived, and who knows what will now happen. They could go on.
I've criticised, you know, Argentina, the way they played in the first half. You know, looking at them, if it was my side, I'd be quite angry, you know, in the dressing room, finding why they haven't performed. When you look at that little sequence there, what Bolivia have done, that's exactly what Argentina haven't done. you know, and they've got the better quality players, the better known players to us. And you would expect them to do that against the Bolivian side. But you've got to give credit to the Bolivians. They say, hey, it's Argentina, who cares? We're going to do our best against them. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, Craig, I think this is one of the delights of this tournament, that, as Alan said, everyone's really, certainly this side of the water, expecting the big names, Argentina, to win this. Yet we've got some really delightful football being provided by sides like Bolivia.
Yeah, the lesser-known sides are doing exceptionally well. I think Trevor Francis made a great point. Shamo, the left-sided attacking player from the back for Argentina, hasn't come forward at all. Now, that's a credit to the defensive qualities of Bolivia. If he gets himself forward and gets some balls across, the two excellent strikers that Argentina have may have a chance. But they're not getting any service. It's hard to fault them. The ball is not coming across the face of the goal for them.
Well, we were saying yesterday, or earlier this morning, that Brazil was struggling in their first appearance. Could we be saying the same sort of thing? I mean, can Argentina go on and grind a win out here?
I think they'll have trouble grinding a win. I would think the best they're going to get in that performance is a draw, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a minor upset here.
Alan, then what happens, do you think, second half? How do you see it panning out?
I think they played so poorly in the first half, David. I can see them doing a lot better in the second half. You know, if you get your school report at the end of the year, you know, with your kids, and they say you could do a lot better, I think that's what Argentina will do at the end of this game. I think they'll end up winning the match.
Well, we shall see very soon. We're going to take another short break, but it's the second half. It's Argentina against Bolivia coming up in a couple of minutes from now. See what happens then. The second half of Argentina against Bolivia coming up very soon. But tomorrow we're back to Group A for two exciting matches. First of all, Uruguay against Paraguay. That kicks off just after 7 o'clock, although we're on air at 6 o'clock tomorrow. And that match from Montevideo is followed by Mexico against Venezuela, kicking off just after 9 o'clock. So two matches in Group A to look forward to. That's tomorrow. And remember, you can see all these matches live and exclusive here on Sky Sports. So the second half then in this important game really for Argentina. They're taking on Bolivia. It's 0-0 at the moment. Alan Mullery, really, what is the key then to this match as far as Bolivia are concerned? We've heard about your thoughts on Argentina. What will Bolivia now be thinking they have to do in the second half?
They don't have to do any more than they're already doing. Defensively, as Craig said, they're working brilliantly. They're getting behind the ball. They're attacking just with one single player up front, Mercado, and he's doing the job. And what they've got to do is just support them in that respect.
Do they have enough self-belief, do you think? I mean, here they are playing the mighty Argentinians.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. If they had more self-belief, they would already have scored. But I do think that Echeverri is doing very, very well against Gallardo in midfield, and he's winning that midfield battle. They're both highly skillful players. We saw a wonderful bit of skill early in the game from Gallardo, but that's about all. And Echeverri's beginning to dominate that middle area. And if he gets the supply forward, as Alan says, and we get support, I think we're in for an upset.
Well, we shall see. OK, fine. Well, we can now go back to pictures from South America. We're just about ready for the start of that second half. It's, remember, once again, it's Argentina against Bolivia. Commentary coming from Trevor Francis and Martin Tyler.
Well, it's just after 6 o'clock here, local time, and the floodlights, which have been imported from Holland, beginning to bite into the dusk, and changes for Argentina. Ortega is on, Ariel Ortega, and also Estrada. And Trevor Francis, I don't think there is any surprise that Passarella wants a shake-up.
No, I would think that Batistuta has been so frustrated during this first 45 minutes. He won't feel that he's contributed in the first period of this game. And when you look at his goal-scoring record in Italy, 26 goals from 32 games. That's phenomenal. He's not had one attempted goal in this first 45 minutes.
And of course, he scored in the first 11 Fiorentina League games of the season, which set a new record in Italy. Well, he hasn't scored here, and the Copa America has been very much his territory in 91 and 93, when Argentina were the champions. They haven't played like champions so far, but at 0-0, they haven't lost anything, and one can only expect a better showing for them in the second half. Gallardo and Perez, two of that ineffectual midfield, replaced by Daniel Passarella with his two substitutions. Something we're seeing quite a lot of in this tournament. with the coaches now having the insurance of being allowed a third substitute later on. It was a good break by Zanetti, and he tries again, but got an unfortunate ricochet.
Yes, that is something that's been noticeable in most of these games. Managers making the two substitutions at half-time. No problem with that, of course, as long as players are aware of it and accept it. But so often players who get brought off can never accept it. But it's always done for the benefit of the team. 9 times out of 10 it's done tactically. And of course the manager has got to be brave to do these things at half-time.
Here is Batistuta. And winning his free kick, the foul by Borja. Ortega. Almost coming for Batistuta. It has come for Ortega. Back to Estrada, the other substitute. Well, you sense here a team in blue and white stripes that have been on the receiving end from some harsh words in the dressing room at half-time. And they're trying to prove themselves with a better showing in the second half. Now goes Simeone, free kick to Argentina. Estrada tries to take it short. Well, it was a bit lucky that it wasn't ordered to be retaken. And again, well, maybe two wrongs do make a right in the referee's mind in that particular scenario. Haven't changed the laws of the game that you only have to go back 1 yard, have they? Simeone. That's too long from Borelli.
Well, there was an instance also in the first half when a Bolivian player kicked the ball away when a free kick was about to be taken. Should have been a yellow card. Once again there. Stood 1 yard off the ball, prevented the player from taking it quickly. It's got to be a yellow card.
Yes, you fear for this Uruguayan referee if Sepp Blatter happens to be watching. The self-appointed law enforcer of FIFA. Well, that's not quite fair. He's not self-appointed, but he's certainly taken it all on. And all sorts of changes to the laws still being discussed. Whether timeouts become a factor, the kick-in rather than a throw-in is still on the agenda. But there's an extra zip about Argentina in these opening minutes of the second half. Ortega, who had his moments in the World Cup final. Simeone needs a good cross here. Simeone got to it, and Borelli on his debut had a chance, but couldn't impart any power to the header.
Well, in these opening 5 minutes is a different Argentina, isn't it? Certainly lifted Passarella and lifted the fans also, because as the players went off after the first 45 minutes, there were boos, there were whistles. They weren't at all happy with the first 45 minutes from their team.
Cristaldo. It's the first sign in that attack sparked by Echeverri. Bolivia are going to raise their game to stop Argentina really pinning them back. Second half began that way. An opening for Borelli. Plenty of players in the centre as Zanetti crossed. Here is Borelli on the ball.
Whether we get the opportunity, Martin, to see the chance again, I don't know, but what was evident, which certainly wasn't in the opening period, was the fact that Argentina got more players from midfield into the box to support the front two. And it was Borelli with a chance fell to, but apart from him there seemed to be 3 or 4 other players who were also in the 6-yard box. That's something that never happened in the first half.
Well, Bolivia have battle-hardened defenders like Rimba and Sandy and Quinteros, who's based in Argentina with the newly crowned Argentinian champions San Lorenzo Melgar. There's the outlet again with Cristaldo. We were just talking at half-time, Trevor, that these players who can go up and down the left-hand side, naturally left-footed, aren't too easy to find. And whether any British coaches might be interested in Cristaldo.
Well, I think that also the systems that these teams play, South Americans, lends itself to finding space there, because last night I spoke virtually the whole 90 minutes about Santar, who seemed to be making so many runs up that touchline. And tonight Cristaldo is featured throughout the game.
Didn't time his tackle very well then. Brought out by Zanetti. Simeone. He's got to do a bit of re-establishing in midfield, you feel, Bolivia, at this stage. Crucial stage, perhaps, in the final outcome of the game.
What you're never quite sure about, Martin, is, you know, Cristaldo looks very, very effective coming forward, but how can he defend? You know, in this system, he's not needed to defend too often, but if you're playing in a 4-4-2 formation, which many of the English teams play, so often his defensive qualities are shown up.
Valdivieso, that was a delightful touch. Peña taking the wrong turn. Chamot trying to show that he is, as we all know, an attack-minded left back.
The players who can defend in that position and also come forward very, very effectively. Very few in between. I think that probably the best is Maldini. That's why he's recognised as the world's best fullback. Not only because of his defending, of course, because when he comes forward, he's so effective on that left-hand side. Gets forward, scores goals, gets in crosses.
Simeone looking to get in a cross here. Well, they can bring the troops forward now, can Argentina. You can sense greater optimism amongst their fans. They've got a corner.
I think they'll probably take their time, wait for Chamot and Ayala, the captain, to come forward.
Taken by Ortega. Was Chamot right in there. But there's urgency about Argentina now. Borelli. Here's Chamot. Strong. And he might have gone down there. He'd have got a free kick outside the penalty area. He sensed that there might be more on offer than that.
I think it was more of a surprise that he didn't go down. You tend to associate, you know, the South Americans around the penalty box there with going over at every opportunity because they're so dangerous on free kicks. But he probably saw his teammates take that free kick in the first half and thought, well, I'm not going to bother here falling over.
I think if they'd have been in front, he definitely would have gone down. But there's just a feeling here that they're playing at rather urgent, not exactly desperate pace, but they know they can do better and they want to show that. At times it's manifesting itself in trying too hard, but here's Zanetti. Still Zanetti. He's got a free kick. Similar position to the one in the first half, just right of centre. And they tried to set up Batistuta in the centre with some elaborate subterfuge. Batistuta perhaps not happy with the service then. Might decide, well, it's time to sort it all out for himself.
Yes, I would think he's desperate for a shot. 55 minutes gone, not had one attempt at goal. He'll probably look to take this himself.
The referee concerned about getting the wall back. Borelli and Balbo. It's Balbo, and it's a corner. There's Ayala with the captain's armband. Well, that really was attacked by Cáceres. And that was very close, I must say. I paused for a moment because I was sure it would go in.
Yes, it's a corner that we've seen so many times, especially from the Germans. That, remember, the fullback Manny Couts used to take those type of corners, swinging them away with his right foot, away from the defender. A lot of pace. It's a great header. I thought it was in. My first thoughts were it was in the back of the net.
Here's Mercado, still full of willing running. Chamot. Borelli. Foul by Echeverri. Nice to see him apologise to Borelli. Maybe he's learnt his lesson after that early exit in this Bolivia's first game in the World Cup finals last year. Borelli. And here's Balbo. Is this the moment for Argentina? Not quite. But you do sense it might not be long in coming. The corner tally is rising. It's still 0-0. Retrieving down here by Borelli. That's a clever ball for Simeone. And Trucco, has he carried that over the line? No. Certainly wobbled for a moment.
Well, they're certainly getting closer, aren't they? And once again, a feature of that build-up there with a number of players in the penalty box.
It was nicely cut back by Simeone.
Yes, Balbo just couldn't get enough power on it. Got his head to it, but not enough power to beat Trucco.
Here's Cáceres. One of a number of players who has come close already in the second half for Argentina. Still a search for the breakthrough. Borelli. Melgar, the midfield platform has gone for the moment from Bolivia. Peña gets a foot in, Cristaldo scurries, but it's Argentina's throw. Simeone. Simeone again. Batistuta just wanting an extra second, claiming that he was fouled in the tackle from behind, but not seen that way by the referee. Brought out by Valdivieso. This is Echeverri wanting to take on Cáceres, and he's doing that. Defender responded as he had to do. And you do feel, Trevor, that Bolivia have got to offer something like this just to relieve some of the pressure.
That was a good determined run. He did the right thing when he started going with pace at the defender, decided to go into the penalty box. Defenders don't like it once you get inside there. He knew what he was after.
Echeverri himself takes the corner, commanding catch by Cristante. Borelli. It's a fine tackle by Borja. Valdivieso. Well, Chamot, when he first broke into top football, was regarded as a bit of a player likely to get into any brawls that might be going. He's curbed his indiscipline and is the better for it. It's not to say if the temperature rises here, he might not be one of the first to get involved. Ortega. What, 5'7", only about 10 stone of him. But brought on for the second half to try and inject the purpose into Argentina's play, and he's doing that. Simeone's cross, Balbo. Can he do it this time? Oh, I don't think it was even going in. But Trucco wasn't taking any chances. And the opportunities are falling Balbo's way at the moment.
Yes, I thought the previous one, he did reasonably well, shot hard in low, hit the post, but I thought he should have done better there. He found himself in 3 or 4 yards of space, needed instant control, then a quick shot, and his control let him down.
He's got that arm that was damaged recently in the friendly against Australia strapped up.
Here you see him in good possession, one touch. Well, the control lets him down, he gets a shot in, but no power at all, and it's a comfortable save.
Simeone, Ortega there for company. Simeone tries to steer it more directly through the centre towards Balbo and Batistuta. Borelli. Well, it's a point that Andy Gray continually makes through the Premiership season, that when you are on top, you have to score really to make use of the good opportunities you create. These spells at this level don't last forever. Argentina haven't scored in 17 minutes or so of the second half.
Yes, but you also look at the goal-scoring records of the players you have in the team. I take the point that you must score when you're playing well and you're on top. But when you have players like Balbo and Batistuta, their record tells you that they will score.
But here's Mercado from a lovely ball from Echeverri. And Bolivia's record tells you that they don't take their chances.
That is typical what I said at the start of the game. Why didn't he shoot from that situation? On his left foot, what was he, 22 yards from goal? He's got to try his luck from there. It's criminal when you get into that situation, you try dribbling and you lose possession. At least you get a shot and try and make the keeper make a save. He's done nothing.
Yes, it's smacked of panic. What do I do next?
Because when you're playing by yourself up front, you don't get that many opportunities to score goals.
Peña. Back come Argentina with Cáceres. Ortega. Batistuta. Well played, the goalkeeper. Got to the ball. Estrada, who is in his preferred position, really, the holding midfield player. Job done so well in the past for Argentina by the assistant coach Gallego. This was Batistuta. He got there, but so too did Trucco, without giving away a penalty, which might have been a worry for Bolivia. The referee not standing any nonsense when it comes to dissent.
Well, if he had touched Batistuta's ankles, obviously it would have been a penalty, and of course he would have had to have been sent off, so it would have been a double punishment that for Bolivia.
And Batistuta, if he ever gets to watch the replay, will realise that the referee was right for all that he subsequently said.
He had to be right, didn't he, Trucco? And he was. He got the ball, no doubt about it.
Well, that was Peña, who was actually in the World Cup squad. He was suspended from a red card in the qualifying tournament from the first 2 games, but they took him in any case, and he played in the 3rd game, which was a great compliment to him. Certainly a young player that they'd earmarked for the future.
He's certainly not in the team for his shooting, is he?
Well, with the possible exception of Valdivieso and also Echeverri, who we haven't really seen let fly, have we, with the left foot? There aren't too many who would win a shooting competition. Melgar, still 0-0, and that is still something of a surprise here in Paysandú. So close to Argentina, it's almost a home fixture for the defending champions, looking for a hat-trick of Copa America successes, and playing better in the second half without as yet taking the lead. Sandy. Oh, defending well up the pitch, Bolivia there. And the ball kicked away again, which should be an automatic yellow card. Borelli, nice turn. Chamot. There's Borja again. The most capped Bolivian player of all time, his 84th appearance. And he still keeps on going, working the right-hand side beat. Bolivia are going to make a change. And they're taking off Mercado and bringing on Angola. So the front player, who's had to work on his own, goes off. And now here's Batistuta. Well, that's what the crowd have been waiting to see, up to a point. It was definitive Batistuta, except that the ball flashed the wrong side of the post.
Yes, the moment that he got that ball onto his right foot, here he just gets it back. You expect to hit the back of the net. That's his best chance.
So here's the new arrival. Echeverri. Up to Angola, but not picking up the pace of the game straight away. And there's quite a zip to it, as there have been in all the games so far in the tournament.
One thing Angola's got to do, just going up there up front by himself, is he must keep possession of the ball. When you're up there by yourself, that is the most important thing for the team, is to keep hold of the ball, so that midfield players can come and support you. To give it away like he did there is criminal. As easy as he gave it away, I should say. Just a word on the system with playing one up front. It's something that we've seen on so many occasions since Terry Venables has been manager of England. And it's not a system that I feel is been totally accepted by the public here in England.
Ortega. Simeone. Well, he's been an international since a teenager. He's regarded with great admiration by his fellow professionals, a totally dedicated trainer. But he's had better days when it's come to shooting than he's had here in Paysandú so far. Cristaldo. Peña. Despite the extra pressure from Argentina, Bolivia still happy to play the ball around in their own half of the pitch under some pressure. And they got away with it that time. You feel it's increasingly risky giving the chance for Argentina with this more determined second half play to nick it further forward. Borelli. Well, 20 minutes to go. Be quite a story if it finished 0-0. Pat on the back for Bolivia. You do feel there are one or two crises ahead before they can enjoy such a result. Borelli. Cross came Borja. He certainly moved into it with the arm making contact with the ball, but the referee ruling that it wasn't intentional. Back come Argentina with Zanetti. A bold run from him. And Batistuta! Yes! The second half pressure has paid off, and it's the player who specialises in this tournament, Gabriel Batistuta. 1-0 to Argentina at last.
Yes, that's the reason why, in my opinion, he's probably the best striker in the world. He was my tip to finish top goal scorer in this competition. I thought for a minute that he lost the opportunity, but he knew exactly what he was doing. Nice and calm, gets a little bit of good fortune. It's a good run from Zanetti, good powerful run, but this is where he gets the break. The ball comes to him, I thought he was going to shoot there, takes his time, and hits it on the volley with tremendous power.
Well, it was a characteristic piece of Batistuta finishing. He loves to put his foot through the ball and rifle it in. And that's 30 international goals now for Gabriel Batistuta in a span of, well, just over 4 years. And he's homing in on the great Maradona, who will have approved totally of what he's just witnessed here.
And this is when it comes a bit of a test for the Bolivian manager. Does he stick with this system? He's just taken his only forward off, Mercado, brought on Angola up front. Will he continue? 19 minutes to go, 1-0 down, to continue playing with just the one up front? We shall see.
Well, he's got another option on the bench in Álvaro Peña, who scored in that famous victory over Brazil in the World Cup qualifiers. The only time Brazil had ever lost a World Cup qualifying game 2 years ago. Well, they needed 1 or 2 extra gears, Argentina, for the second half, and they've managed to achieve them. And
oh, without doubt, the second half performance has merited a goal. It was only a matter of time, you felt, before it was going to come. Balbo's had a couple of chances, Batistuta had a chance. It's fully deserved in the second half.
Argentina annoyed with the referee, and Estrada in particular for his dissent. Free kick given against him, yellow card shown to him for disputing it.
I think the two players who have come on from him, Estrada and Ortega, have injected something into the team. A little bit more purpose, a little bit more aggression. They play a little bit more pace. I thought it was a little bit too predictable in that first period.
And really, the strain of wearing that number 10 for young Gallardo was a bit too great. And a difficult 45 minutes around him. The individual performances weren't good. The team performance was virtually non-existent.
Well, Perez and Gallardo in that first half, they tended to play everything stood still. There's much more movement, much more running from the two midfield players who have now come on to replace them.
Cristaldo. And we might see more of Peña making those runs ahead of the ball. Just a quick moment to remind you of what's coming up tomorrow for you. From Group A, Uruguay and Paraguay, the two winners of their opening games, followed by the two losers, Mexico, who surprisingly were beaten by Paraguay. They need something against the side, perhaps the weakest of all the nations here, Venezuela. So matches of real meaning for you on Sky Sports from the Copa America, all through the tournament, of course, and a double header tomorrow. As I hope you've enjoyed today's action. You've seen the United States already beat Chile to improve on their weak showing in their first Copa America 2 years ago. And here Argentina taking their time to get going, but now flexing their muscles. Balbo. Ortega. It was 4 years ago when Batistuta really announced himself on the world stage in the Copa America. Top scorer with 6 goals in that tournament, won by Argentina. 3 more 2 years later. Again, Argentina going home with the trophy. And he started as he's left off with another goal. And a crucial one, really, for the morale of his team. Melgar. Well, injecting more directness into their play is difficult for Bolivia. They seem to be very much Trevor footballers of habit, and there's been no obvious tactical change.
No,
a goal down.
You have to play to what your personnel allows you to play, and I would think that the Bolivian manager realises that he doesn't have a lot of players who are what you call recognised goal scorers. So by playing this system, he feels it's the best way of getting a result.
And he might get an equaliser here. He's got one. Angola. Argentina completely stunned. Bolivia have scored. The substitute strikes. Well, you can see what the moment means, and it was a very well worked goal, and prior to the finish, all credit to the referee, who could have blown for a free kick and decided to let the game go on, and Bolivia made full use of that. There you can see there was a free kick about to be awarded. The referee saw that the ball went on to Echeverri, and his pass was inch perfect for Angola. Tight angle, back of the net. Trevor, 1-1. Sorry, I've gone on a bit.
Well, it's taken me by surprise. I couldn't see where a goal was going to come from. Possibly a free kick. Thought it may have been a little push there on Borelli, but no doubt about the finish. It was very, very cool. Cross, Cristante in goal. It was a good finish by Angola.
And similarities with Colombia against Peru. We were expecting Colombia, once Faustino Asprilla had given them the lead after great difficulties against the Peruvians, but they were then pegged back with a high-quality goal. As we've just seen here from Bolivia now, a yellow card for Ayala.
How can he possibly complain about that? Made no attempt to play the ball, just came rushing in. That's out of frustration, isn't it? Could be no other reason for that.
Remind you of Passarella?
Very much so.
Passarella once got into trouble playing in Italy, Trevor. I don't know if you remember it, but he actually kicked a ball boy. He was so frustrated during a game. Typical of his aggression.
Yes, that was at the stadium where I played my football. I had since gone from Sampdoria, but it was in a game against Sampdoria.
Argentina trying to bounce back. Down goes Simeone. Well, there's been much more to stir the blood in the second half. And Argentina have a free kick, just over 10 minutes to go. A lead to be regained here if they can. Ortega complaining that the two-man wall hasn't gotten back the required distance. And
seemed to be a handball there.
Yes, that was, I suppose with memories of Maradona, we shouldn't be so surprised at that. But it was a handball, a hand belonging to an Argentine. The referee's just... Bolivia are going to restart with a free kick.
We talked about the yellow cards tonight. Let's just have a little look at this.
That's Batistuta, isn't it?
Well, if he has handed it, which clearly he did there, that should be a yellow card. And of course, if he'd got the yellow card there, having already got one, he'd be off the field.
Absolutely. Well, that possibly crossed the referee's mind. It shouldn't. And maybe it didn't, but one suspects that the referee didn't want to be in a position here with so many Argentinian fans in the stadium to send off the hero and put him out of at least one more game.
You're not implying, Martin, that referees are not honest, are you?
I think they're human. That's the best I can say to answer that question. Out comes Trucco. It's fallen for Batistuta, and Trucco saves splendidly. Way away from home. It was a good strike by Batistuta. Estrada. Simeone against the post and in from Balbo. The Bolivians have gone to the linesman. The Argentinians have gone to Abel Balbo. And this high-profile partnership up front. There they are, Balbo and Batistuta have come up with the goods when needed here. Simeone got it over the goalkeeper. It hits the post and it could go either way. It went Argentina's way.
Yes, it may look a simple goal, but that was good instinctive play from Balbo. Did what all forwards should do, followed the ball in the hope that it may just hit the post and come back. Simeone should have scored with it, but Balbo made sure.
And it's Balbo's last touch of the game. He goes off to be replaced by Acosta, who's another forward player of real pace and aggression. Not always the best first touch, but he can be a handful, and he's got demoralised defenders. One suspects at the moment.
Well, the Bolivians were complaining to the linesman for offside. Were they complaining about Simeone, or was it Balbo being offside?
Well, possibly Simeone. But Balbo was in there very quickly.
It couldn't possibly be Balbo because he's done what he should do. He's followed the ball in.
He never got ahead of the ball or ahead of Simeone, did he? It didn't seem that way. But it's a goal. It stands for Argentina, and Bolivia have to try and bounce back a second time. They were stunned, it seemed, by manufacturing one equaliser.
But it's the point I was making earlier in the commentary, Martin. It doesn't matter how you're playing, how the teams are playing. If you've got players up front, the calibre of Batistuta and Balbo, you always know you're in with a chance of winning. They were going through a little spell there where they're rocked back on their heels, Argentina, completely taken by surprise. Bolivia scored the equaliser, having a bad spell for a few minutes, but Balbo came up with the goods again.
Well, we've just seen a goal kick taken where the ball didn't go outside of the penalty area, and I must say this referee hasn't been a stickler for the letter of the law. And here's Batistuta. Still Batistuta. Acosta! Well, it was a chance, not an easy one, to make an instant impact. Batistuta left the defenders trailing in his wake. And Acosta going for the acrobatic finish.
Well, that's fantastic play from Batistuta. Great control, good dribble, onto his right foot. And just look at the cross, he sits it up on end. Difficult on the volley, but players of that calibre would expect the score.
Well, this game took a while to get going, but so many talking points in the second half, and it looks, it's dangerous in this tournament already, we've seen, to predict. It looks as though Argentina are going to get the 3 points and match perhaps the same scoreline with which the United States picked up their 3 points earlier today.
It was in fact Acosta who missed that chance, and I'm sure Balbo now sat on the bench with Passarella's probably saying to Daniel, I would have scored with that.
I don't think there'll be any doubt that Balbo will be starting the next game. Unless Passarella is going to just mix it up a little bit to keep players fresh.
Or unless he grows his hair 6 inches in the next 3 days.
That means definitely he'll be out. Well, there was discontent in the ranks of the Argentina fans at half-time. They're happy as we approach full-time. And my goodness, when they're happy, it's a great sight. Talk about the Brazilians and the wonderful atmosphere that they create around the world. I was lucky to be in Buenos Aires in 1978 when Argentina won the World Cup. It was one heck of a night. One heck of a week, one heck of a month, one heck of a year. That day against the Dutch, it was this man, Daniel Passarella, who collected the trophy. Argentina regaining the world crown in '86 when Passarella was a member of the squad, but was actually ill throughout the tournament and didn't take part. Valdivieso, and Echeverri was running across the line of the shot, almost distracting Cristante. Well, it wasn't Valdivieso who fouled Simeone, but Echeverri. Maybe something was said, although whether it could be heard in this din, I'm not so sure. But it's led to a type of flare-up we all know is a common sight in this tournament with the Latin American temperament. It hasn't been too prevalent in the 1995 version. But you can understand feelings running high. It's been chop and change in terms of emotions for both parties. Here's Simeone, here's Echeverri. And then the first person who said, oh, well, that's what happened. Valdivieso kicked the ball into Simeone's face. He got the right man, in fact. He didn't kick it very hard. Zanetti. Trevor, what do you make of the second half version of Argentina?
Well, in complete contrast to the first half. I think it's fair to say they were rubbish in the first half. Second half, I've really enjoyed their performance. I'm sure if they win this game that Balbo and Batistuta will take the headlines tomorrow in the Argentinian press. But I think a word of praise for Passarella. He made a tactical substitution at half-time, taking off Perez and Gallardo. It has really transformed the team in the second half. Obviously the two players who have come on, Estrada and Ortega, have had to play well, and they've certainly done that. They look a different side. That little bit of pace, injection of aggression in the midfield certainly helped the front two.
There's a little cameo of what Acosta is all about. His ball-like charges, hard to stop. A further injection of pace with the third substitution. And almost there with their victory, Argentina. Like another goal to get ahead of the United States.
That's the last thing you want. With just, 10 seconds left on the clock, to be playing a free kick like that just into the keeper's hands. You've got to keep possession with only seconds to go of the game. You can't be kicking into the keeper's hands.
Well, Bolivia prepared to take a risk or two here. Borja. Seen off by Chamot. Check on the watch. We're into stoppage time. Borja's header. Angola. And there's a bit of confusion in here. And In the end, indirect free kick given for dangerous play in favour of Argentina.
Well, it was awful defending from Argentina. I think it was Caceres there who was having the treatment on the floor. He should have just whacked that ball over the stand in the last minute of the game, allowed it to bounce. Could have conceded a goal, and that would have been a disaster in the last seconds of the game.
Acosta. Now Ortega. This is Acosta. No one lurking for Argentina on the edge of the area. Maybe in the final few seconds here.
But he shouldn't be crossing balls there in the last seconds of the game. Keep the ball. Go to the areas where it's not going to be a problem, where they find it hard to get the ball off you. Keep possession of the ball. There's no point in crossing it. The game's won. We've got the result. We've got the 3 points. Shouldn't be giving the ball away like that.
Valdivieso. Echeverri. For Borja. Well, they very nearly lost 2 of those 3 points then.
And that's the reason why they should be keeping possession, because if they keep it down by the corner flag for the last few seconds, the opposition can't have the ball. They've gone through there within 30 seconds and almost scored the equaliser.
It's that same angle that led to the first equaliser. Well, we need the ball to finish the game. The Uruguayan referee trying to make all that plain to Argentina supporters who know all about it. The replacement ball shouldn't be too hard to find. And Bolivia have a corner. 3 minutes of stoppage time played. Echeverri hasn't got many more seconds to play with, you feel, in delaying here. Now he swings it in, and Cristante, to great appreciation from his teammates, dominated the goal area then. And even in this much better second half showing from Argentina, there have still been areas of vulnerability which teams with greater attacking prowess than Bolivia will be looking to exploit later in the competition.
Yes, they've done enough to win the game, but they haven't been convincing defensively.
Borja. Angola.
And basically, Argentina got to hope that Balbo and Batistuta stay fit throughout the tournament.
Well, they have delivered for Daniel Passarella here. Batistuta opened the scoring, a much better second half from Argentina, but they still allowed Angola, the Bolivian substitute, to equalise and put the frowns back on Argentinian faces. But the other half of the combination, Roma's Abel Balbo, poached the winner. And both games in this group have finished 2-1 today in favour, first of all, of the United States, and here for Argentina.
Commentary from Trevor Francis and Martin Tyler. So it's all come right in the end. A much better second half performance from Argentina. They win 2-1. The cup holders are on their way. So Argentina going through 2-1 against Bolivia. Both matches, in fact, finishing 2-1 tonight. USA earlier beating Chile, but confirmation there of the match facts, and it's all really swung round in the second half. Look at that. Argentina with 16 shots overall, Bolivia 11, 10 on target for the Argentinians, 7 for Bolivia, and 9 corners, 5 for the Argentinians, 4 for Bolivia. Caught offside, the Argentinians 3 times. Sadly, 33 fouls in all committed. 4 bookings for Argentina, none for Bolivia, and thankfully, no sendings off. So it really did swing round. By the way, if you're waiting for the Australian Rugby League, can I just apologise? We are overrunning very slightly. That'll be coming your way at 11:15. But meantime, we're talking about Copa America. Alan Mullery and Craig Brown, we were all impressed, I think, by the way Argentina swung that round in that second half. And Alan, they were a different side.
Well, the substitutions made a difference, Dave, to be honest. I mean, and a few superlatives, I'm sure, from Daniel Passarella in the dressing room, which we can't repeat on a family programme. Ortega and Estrada made the difference. They really set the pace in the second half, and they made people play, which is what Trevor was saying. In the first half, it hadn't happened. They were an entirely different side. Much, much better in the way they went about the game. The attitude was far better. And we saw the quality of an Argentinian side in the second half, which we expected in the first half.
Argentina, in fact, Craig, did very much what Bolivia did. They had a purple patch. Admittedly, they didn't score, but they had some chances that came in quick succession. We can now see, first of all, Cáceres, and there were several chances after this too.
This was a good flashing header from an excellent delivery from the corner kick. He got a good contact and was unfortunate not to score there.
Yeah. Yes, that was a good effort. But at this stage, you just sensed that it was not going to be long before this scored.
I was wrong at half-time. I thought Bolivia could perhaps hold out, but I reckoned without the half-time words from Daniel Passarella. In fact, I'm very surprised that Bolivia didn't make a substitution at half-time.
Their build-up and their movement was far better, wasn't it? That's a lovely pass there, wasn't it? Yeah, it's a great crossing. You know, and he should have done better, actually, shouldn't he, Balbo, as far as the header was concerned?
I think he was stretching for it.
Yeah.
The goalkeeper managed to prevent himself stepping over the line with it.
We were waiting really for Gabriel Batistuta to arrive. I mean, he was there all the time, but we hadn't seen much from him. It had been a disappointing first half. No, and he took his time, but eventually he did make his impact. A good player.
He exploded onto the scene, and as Trevor said, he saw him in that game against Greece in the World Cup. I saw the same game when he scored 3. He was wonderful then. And we saw a brilliant goal here. They got a wee break before he scored, but when he got the chance, he finished it brilliantly.
We'll have a look at it in just a moment, but we heard Trevor Francis saying he felt that really he's just about the best striker around at the moment.
Yes, I would think so. I think we would stick him into our team, and it would help us. I think help any team. I think he's outstanding. And of course, you've not to underestimate the contribution of his partner up front as well. Both of them scored, and Bilbao, 2 excellent strikers.
Just before, in fact, he scored, he gave the Bolivians a warning that he was about to find his form, didn't he, Alan? He went close.
This is what Trevor was saying throughout the game. You know, he's got such ability that if you've got a player of his quality, which was a nice little run there, they just set him in now, and now he shows you a bit of class. You know, he takes it once, touches it with his left foot, and then strikes it. I thought we should have done better there, and Craig and I thought there was a deflection there, actually, because normally from that position he's that good that he finishes. Little bit of luck comes his way now this way. You know, he gets a rebound, but his first touch sets it up with his right foot, then he hits it on the volley. No chance for the keeper. Magnificent finish.
Brilliant.
You know, and that's you see it again. Look at his awareness, the number 9 on his back, just waiting there for something to happen. As soon as he sees it, woof, he's off. And he's got the ball under control, volley goes in, goalkeeper no chance.
He's got the awareness too to pull out to prevent him being offside. It was an offside position when the build-up was, and he pulled himself onside, and I thought that was superb.
Yes, I mean, that's his 30th international goal. I think he's now got 10 in the Copa America overall, and he's only 3 off, the all-time record set by Maradona for Argentina.
Yeah, I think the way he's going, he could get it in this tournament.
I think there's a fair chance he'll get it. Yeah.
Now, did we think at that stage that Bolivia were down and out, or did you feel that they would hit back?
No, I thought they were down and out. I thought at half-time they had half a chance, but they didn't make any substitutions. Mercado ran out of steam, and eventually they put on Angola, and Angola did score from a wonderful pass. It was one of the best passes that we've seen in this tournament.
Yes.
The through ball, and you'll see it when it comes up.
In fact, Bolivia did come back. As I said, we felt that they were down and out. They seemed to find a little bit of a sort of second breath, but also Argentina, they sort of weathered the Argentina storm.
Lovely little run, wasn't it? You see Echeverria, he plays a lovely little ball in a minute. The ball comes back to him, you see him, number 10 on his back now. He's got it, and he sells a little dummy, he goes to cross it, does that little dummy, and then the outside of his left foot, he puts Angola in. Look at the timing of that pass. And now Angola, the goalkeeper anticipates the cross, and Angola shoots for goal and it hits the net, you know. But it was a wonderful pass from Echeverria. He just played it so beautifully when the ball comes back. You look at the timing of this, the touch in the first one with his right foot, dummies, goes to cross it, dummies, beats the defender, and now the outside of the left foot, timing is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I think the new offside rule helped there. He was probably in line, but it was a great pass. And I think Echeverria is the one player in the Bolivian team that could walk into the Argentinian side. And if he did, he would certainly enhance the Argentinian team.
Yeah. at 1-1, we wondered, was there another upset on the cards? I mean, this tournament has provided a few so far. We thought possibly there was another one here.
Maybe my half-time prediction then was going to be coming true, but Balbo sorted.
Mine was coming true.
Yours was, okay.
Tell us about the winner, because it all seemed to happen in slow motion. I mean, it was a nice bit of work from Simeone, but Balbo made sure.
Well, I think they had a case for offside here,
Yeah.
honestly. I definitely think there was a good case, but it was excellent finishing and good awareness. When the first ball was played through, I thought Balbo was offside.
Yes, certainly the Bolivians felt aggrieved.
Yeah. They were running up at the time, weren't they, and appealing for offside in that respect. But if you look over the far side, right back, he was sort of keeping anybody on. But once Simeone had lobbed the goalkeeper, you know, Balbo was going to. He's a predator. He's in there. He's looking for the bits to come back, and he got one of his goals, which he would call a brilliant goal, which is from 3 yards. You know, that's what it's all about. You've got to knock him in the back of the net.
So how do you assess then what we've seen then, both of you, from Argentina tonight?
Well, that second half performance, I think, has been the best of any team so far, and I think they can go on to retain the trophy. I was very disappointed at half-time, as I said. Couldn't believe what I saw from Argentina, but with their big crowd, incidentally, I saw the crowd all standing there. We were talking about the all-seated stadium, but they all stood, and big support for Argentina, big support for Uruguay, so I think add to that the Brazilian team and maybe add USA and you've got the semi-finalists.
Craig, you've been with us right from the start on this tournament. We've had 1 or 2 very accurate predictions from you. I know you're off abroad for a couple of weeks now, but just before you go, give us your predictions for the last 4 and we'll make a note of these. And also we want to know who do you think is going to win this tournament?
Well, I'm not very proud of my prediction at half-time tonight, but you know, I've been lucky so far. I think, as I said, that we'll get Uruguay through. I would expect Brazil and Argentina, USA, and maybe my outside bet would be Peru, particularly if the young boy Palacios continues with his scoring the way he did last night. I thought that was great, but that would be my tip for the semi-final.
We have made a note of that. Craig, thanks for that indeed. Alan Mullery, thanks for your company as well. So we can just remind you now that in fact we've had games now in groups A, B and C, and we can now check on the tables for those groups. First of all, let's check on Group A. There we are. Uruguay and Paraguay at the top. They're the 2 winners. Mexico and Venezuela, they play each other tomorrow. The 2 losers. That's in Group A. On to Group B. And Brazil, by virtue of that win by 1 goal, they lead. They've got 3 points. Colombia and Peru, they're tied on 1. And Ecuador, of course, having lost to Brazil, they're bottom of the table with no points. And finally, the action we've seen today, USA and Argentina both winning, so they share the lead. Bolivia and Chile still pointless. Now tomorrow, of course, more action. We go back to Group A for that. It's Uruguay, who won their opening match, against Paraguay, who also won. They beat Mexico. That's first tomorrow night. We're on air at 6 o'clock. And the second match tomorrow night, Mexico against Venezuela. That should be good too. The 2 losers, but we hope that will be an exciting game. Somebody's got to win that, we hope. In the meantime, we hope that you at home have enjoyed all the action from the Copa America. We've certainly enjoyed it. It's been full of flair and colour. We're going to leave you now with some goals from Mr. Wijnaldum, who did well for the USA, and also for Mr. Balbo. From all of us here, we say bye-bye.